Hey, how's it going? Right, today we're just going to discuss an issue around deadlift. So it was brought up in Martin's Facebook status, a bit of Facebook status up yesterday, talking about not being able to do a single that should be more or less a warm-up or an easier working set. So I think he was doing a single or a set that should have been around 7 or 8 RPE and couldn't even get it moving. And I'm sure we've all experienced the same thing ourselves, where we're maybe doing singles and we get up to like 80% or 85% and we can't even get the bar off the floor, or maybe we're doing a rep set and we're doing something that should be reasonably easy for 10. I had a client, or had a lifter last night, who pretty much experienced the exact same thing, where we'd set out what should be a reasonable target for sets of around 8 to 10 and couldn't really put forward the effort that was required for that. So you've probably experienced that. I know I've experienced it myself. I've come in to the gym some days and my max is around 310, and I can't even get 260 moving off the floor. And I've done 260 for 9 before, but it's kind of like that. That's kind of like 240 to 260 when I'm overworked or I'm not really in a position where I can put forward a good effort in a deadlift session. 260s around where the brakes go on and just like not going to happen. I can tell around 220, like if I've overreached or I'm not in a position to put forward a good effort in that workout. Deadlift's kind of unique in this sense. You won't really get this. Like, my bench will get fried. My squat not so much. I've never really come in and my squat's been completely fried where I couldn't really put forward an effort. Now, I've definitely come into a squat workout and I've been fatigued and I've not been able to put forward a decent effort, or I've fallen short of the required workload for the day because I'm under-recovered or under-slept or something like that. But on bench press, I've experienced something reasonably similar, but I can still pretty much bench 180 like at any time unless I've got a major issue with my shoulder, or I've not been training, I've maybe completely detrained for like a month or something like that, which I've not been in the past like 12 years. So like, you know, like 180 is like, for me, is like around 80%. It's a lift that I can make, you know, pretty much any day of the week. Whereas with deadlift, you know, 260, 240, that's around 75, 80%. So it's around the same kind of level. And I can't make that any day of the week. I need to be, my loading needs to be so, or my program needs to be so that I can actually put forward an effort in that, and I actually need to curate or to deliberately structure the program so I'm definitely in a position to put forward a good effort on deadlift. So the mechanism behind this is completely conjecture on my part. This is not really backed up by any evidence in the way of scientific literature. But my guess is, so the muscles around the jacking a bit of like Greg Nicholas in the comment section, but I think it definitely made sense. The muscles of the bicep or the elbow, the muscles of the knee, muscles of the glute, they're all peripheral. So damage caused to them isn't as mission critical to existence as, say, muscles of the lower back, muscles and connective tissue that surround the central nervous system or the spinal cord. Any kind of damage caused to the spine could potentially be life-threatening. Therefore, it would make sense that there be some kind of protective mechanism within that system that would stop you causing damage. So if, say and again, this is complete conjecture, say we're about to perform an 85% pull, and our body can feel us like building tension through the spine. It would make sense that there was something like a Golgi tendon or a muscle spindle within the spina erecta or within muscles around the spine that would detect the buildup of force or detect the buildup of change of length as the muscle, as Golgi tendons and muscle spindles do in like a bicep or a quadricep, say, and then shut things off if they're not up to the task, or if there's a heavy amount of fatigue, if there's a heavy amount of fatigue around the lower back, around the muscles of the spine, it would make sense for there to be a protective mechanism within the spine to stop you producing too much shear force, to stop you producing a load that's going to cause damage to the spine. I mean, we've all have experienced, well, most of us will have experienced this sensation with deadlift, and that's my conjecture, that there's some kind of protective mechanism within the body that's going to stop you producing too much shearing force, or too much force too quickly, or too much change of length too quickly in a movement or in a position it has control over. It's something like a squat, you're committed to it once you break at the knees, whereas a deadlift, you're picking up a weight from the floor. At any time you can drop it, so or at any time you can just like stop lifting the weight. So it kind of makes sense that in that scenario your body can say, you know what, mate, nah, not today. We're not really up for this today. We don't really want to injure ourselves. So it could be a psychological mechanism. It could be a neurological mechanism. It could be a local mechanism within a muscle. I don't really know, to be honest, the physiology behind it, but it makes sense that would be the case. But from a practical standpoint, what that actually means is you just need to make sure that within your deadlift training, if you rounded the spine when you lift, you need to reflect that in your training. So it may be the case that you accept a bit of rounding. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but it might be the case that you accept a bit of rounding for whatever the reason is within your own training. So you need to have some kind of like look at speed, like alternating weeks of speed work with weeks of heavy work. Therefore, that you're only putting forward a heavy effort once every 2 weeks. Therefore, you know you're going to be recovered. You're going to be ready for a workout or for the load when it comes on, because you'll be recovered. You should maybe look at addressing your technique potentially, or training in a manner, or training with positions that aren't going to put so much load locally on the spine or locally on the lower back. If you're doing some kind of peaking routine where you're lifting heavy as you can, building towards a meet, you're going to need to put a finite time span on that. I've definitely done this where I've lifted too heavy into a competition. So Four Nations was an example in 2016, I think, where I basically set 2 or 3 big PBs leading into the meet. So within the 3 weeks leading into the meet, I did 310 for a single, I did 300 for a double, nearly tripled it. So I was pretty much certain I was going to lift over 300. Opened to 280, it was difficult, so I dropped my second attempt from like 307 to 302, because I thought, you know what, I'll definitely get the 302, and that will give me the 800 total that I would like. And I failed 302 at the knee twice, just because my back wasn't able to lock it out, basically. Because leading up into the meet, I hadn't pulled back early enough to make sure that my back was ready for the load on meet day. So that's something I'm going to do coming into. I've got a meet coming up in just under 3 weeks now, maybe 21 days, 20 days. So today is actually going to be my last heavy deadlift session. I'll go up to openers next week, and then I'll pull back, and that'll give me like 10 days of no deadlifting before a meet. And that's pretty much my standard now. Going into meets for myself is I pull back 10 days beforehand, and that just means that my back is recovered and ready to put forward a maximal effort. So just generally, if you are getting that sensation of where you're trying to pull and your body's like, you know what, mate, not today, it's generally either reflective of your technique or it's reflective of your programming, and it's something you just need to be cognizant of, or you need to have in the back of your head, and cater for it, either in addressing the technique or addressing the programming, and doing programming in such a way that for you, this is the way it's going to work. So that's individualization in a sense. Lifters who lift sumo deadlift with pristine technique, they can deadlift 3 times a week. They can deadlift heavy every week. You look at your man Candido. He's got a fucking beautiful position. So yeah, he can deadlift. He can deadlift heavy week in, week out. He can deadlift with high volumes because he's loading himself in a manner that whereas the force is evenly distributed. It's not localized anywhere. But if we look at someone like KK or Andy Bolton, or name a great deadlifter who pull conventional, when them guys pull heavy, it gets a bit naughty. I mean, it does. So there's a reason why those guys talk so much about speed work. If you look at Eddie Hall's program that leads up to the 500, heavy days, heavy week, speed week, heavy week, speed week. So it's like an overload week followed by a speed week. And there's other things going on in the background that make that work. So that's not necessarily going to work for an actual lifter. It might work for a natural lifter who is fairly new. If you're more of a novice or an intermediate, for an advanced natural lifter, that might not be enough volume and enough intensity and enough overload to progress if you're advanced. But for a beginner or a novice, intermediate, natural, that might work quite well if you pull with a bit of a rounded back. It's built into the lifting lore, isn't it, that you're going to fry your CNS. Well, basically, you're not really frying your CNS, you're just causing a lot of localized fatigue around the back, and your body's no mug when it comes to protecting the spine. It's going to say, you know what, mate, chill the fuck out today, we're not doing this. So that's just a bit of a talk around. I think it's quite an interesting subject, and I'll probably leave it here. If you have any questions you'd like answers, chuck them in the comments below or slide into the DMs. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Marquise. You are watching Cast Iron Strength. Catch you in the next one. Thank you and goodbye.